Welcome. The topic we'll be discussing in this lecture is allocation of frames and thrashing. So first, let us start with allocation of frames. So basically, allocation of frames is deals with like initially when the operating system want to bring a process to the main memory, it should decide like how many frames should be allocated for this particular process. So this decision should be taken. So there are several uh, frame allocation schemes available. The basic, the basically there are two schemes we have. One is called as equal allocation. The other one is called as proportional allocation. And there are several variations of these schemes are available. We'll have a brief introduction about these uh, allocation of these frame allocation schemes. So let us first start with equal allocation and proportional allocation. So coming to equal allocation, so let us discuss this with an example. If there are 100 free frames in the memory, if there are 100 free frames, and if the operating system would like to allocate frames for 5 processes, then the concept of equal allocation says that whatever the number of free frames available, equally distribute among all these five processes. That's it. Okay, so just the number of available free frames are 100 and the number of available process is 5. So each process will get 20 frames. 100 by 5 is 20. So that is what equal allocation scheme says. Okay, then whereas proportional allocation scheme, what it says in the sense, don't allocate the frames equally, allocate it depending on the requirements of each process. Okay, why it says like that in the sense, say for example there are two processes, P1 and P2. Okay, let us assume that 100 free frames are available in the memory. 100 free frames are available in the memory. Let us say that P1 needs only maximum 10 pages. P1 needs maximum only 10 pages. But P2 needs maximum 75 pages. Okay. But the concept of equal allocation, what it says, you just divide the memory into two and give to both of them. So if you allocate equal allocation now, P1 will get 50 frames, but it needs only 10 pages. So 40 frames it is going to waste. Whereas P2 will get only 50 frames, but it needs 75 pages. So, but currently it can load only 50 pages, okay, maximum, right? Although the concept demand paging, all these are there, but still, so this problem is there. So because of that, the proportional allocation scheme suggests that don't allocate the memory or the frames equally to all the process, rather allocate on proportional, depending on how many pages the particular process may need. Depending on that, we can allocate the frames. Okay, so how it is allocated in the sense that, let us discuss that. Let Si be the number of pages required by process Pi. Okay, Si is the number of pages required by a particular process Pi. The maximum number of pages required by a process Pi is given as Si. Okay, and sum of all Si is capital S. Okay, if your system is having 10 process currently, okay, say process P0 to P9, process P0 to P9, then maximum P0 requires how many pages? So that will be called as S1 or S0. Okay, S0. Okay, maximum uh, P0 requires how many pages? That is S0. Maximum P1 needs how many pages? That is S1. Maximum P2 needs how many pages? That is S2. Like that up to maximum P9 needs how many pages? That is S9. Okay, if you take the sum of all these things, S0 plus S1 plus S2 up to S9, so that is capital S, right? Okay, and M is the total number of free frames currently in the memory. M is the total number of free frames currently in the memory. Okay, now this algorithm says that for the process Pi, allocate AI frames. Okay, for the process Pi, allocate AI frames such that AI is equal to SI. SI is how many maximum pages this particular process PI may need divided by S. That is sum of all the uh, page requirements for each page, each process into M. That is a total number of free frames. Okay. So the number of frames allocated for the process P naught will be equal to S naught, okay, S naught divided by capital S into M. So P naught will be allocated with this many frames. P1 will be allocated with S1 by capital S into M, and so on and so forth. And P9 will be allocated with S9 by capital S into M. Okay. Let us discuss this with one example. Assume M is 64. That is total number of free frames in the memory is 64 frames. There are totally 64 free frames available. Okay. And there is a process P1. There is a process P1 and P1 needs maximum 10 pages. P1 needs maximum 10 pages. So S1 is equal to 10. And there is another process P2 and P2 needs maximum 127 pages. So S2 is equal to 127. So what is S? So what is capital S? Here there are only two pages. So S is nothing but S1 plus S2. Capital S is nothing but 137, which is nothing but how we get in the sense by adding S1 with S2. What you get is called as the capital S. Okay. Now how many pages will be allocated to A1 in the sense apply in this formula? S1 by S. What is S1? S1 is 10. 10 by S, capital S, that is 137 into M. What is M? M is the number of free frames available, that is 64. That is mm, that is 64. It should be 64. 1 minute. Okay, so here let us assume M is 62. Okay, M is not 64, M is 62. Okay, M is 62 in the sense, so A1 will be calculated as 10 by 137 into 62. Okay, so it will be equal to approximately equal to 5. Okay, okay, we can round it to 5. Let us not assume as 4, let us assume as 5, because if you do that, I think you will get something 4.67 or something you will get. Okay, so you can round it to 5, right? Nothing wrong. Okay, let us round it to 5. Similarly for A2 it will be SI by S. So S2 is 127 by capital S is 137 into 62. That is approximately 57, 56 point. It will be 56.4. Okay, if it is more than 5.5 or more than 0.5, let us go to the upper value. Otherwise, you go to the down value. Okay, so what you get is 57. So for A1 you will be allocating 5 frames, and for A2 we'll be allocating 57 frames. So 57 plus 5 is nothing but 62. Okay, so this is what proportional allocation scheme says. Don't allocate equally, rather let us follow a proportional scheme based on this particular algorithm. Okay, right? And there are many variations on this. So let us discuss some of the variations. So first let us try to understand what is global versus local allocation. Okay. See, generally, whenever there is a page replacement, assume that the memory contains, uh, say, say the memory contains some 7 or 8 pages. Okay. Say the memory contains this many pages. Okay. Say 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, say again 0, 1 and 2. Okay, these are the page numbers, these are the frame numbers: 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and let us assume that the first 4 frames, that is 0 to 3, it belongs to process P1. The first 4 frames, the respective pages in the first 4 frames, it belongs to process P1. And the next 3 frames, the frame 4, 5 and 6 and the pages in that frame, it belongs to the process P2. Okay. Now, generally, whenever there is an replacement, say the process P1 want to bring the page 4, want to bring the page 4, but the page 4 is not in the memory. Okay, so it should replace. So, so whenever it want to replace, generally it should pick up a page only from its process. It cannot pick up a page from other process. So from this 4 frames, it should identify one page. It should identify either 0, 1, 2 or 3. It cannot enter into the area of the next process. P2 it cannot enter. Okay. So so it should pick up any one of these pages. Maybe it may pick up 2, it may move 2 to the hard disk, and it may bring 4 to the new this particular frame. Okay. So this is how generally frames are replaced. This type of replacement is called as local replacement. This type of replacement is called as local replacement. Okay. So whatever the algorithms we have discussed for frame replacement, all these we have discussed assuming it as local replacement. Okay. That is, a process will replace the frames only those frames which belongs to that particular process. It won't replace the frames which belongs to the, it won't replace the newly coming frame with the frames of some other process. Okay. So that concept is called as this particular concept is called as local allocation. Okay. But this is not always so that doesn't mean that mm, there is no other option. So always we should follow with local allocation. No, there is also an option called as global allocation. By global allocation, a process can even replace the the frame which does not belongs to its it that does not belong to that particular process. So in that case, when you want to replace, say now the process P1 want to replace another, bring another page 5. Page 5 is not in the memory. So if process P1 chooses to replace this page 1, which belongs to process P2, it, it decided that let us replace 5 with the page P2, with the page 1 of P2. Then the page 1 of P2 will be moved to the disk, and 5 will be brought into this location. But actually this location does not belongs to process P1, it belongs to process P2. So this kind of replacement is called as global allocation. Okay. So this is what is about local allocation and global allocation. Okay. So global replacement, what it says in the sense, process selects a replacement frame from the set of all frames. One process can take a frame from another. Okay. So basically, with global allocation scheme, it may result, sometimes it may lead into some form of confusion, because the other process should be aware which if you are replacing some other process frame, it should be aware of it. Okay. So with the global replacement, the execution time may vary greatly, but actually it increases the throughput. It increases the throughput, and also you can say that it is one way to effectively utilize the memory. Okay. Whereas local replacement, each process selects only from its own set of allocated frames for replacement. Okay. So the advantage of this local replacement, it is more consistent, but sometimes the memory may get underutilized. So this is what is about global replacement and local replacement. Okay. And there is also something called as priority allocation or priority replacement. So this is in connection with global replacement. So in global replacement, we discussed that a process can replace a frame or a page that belong to some other process also. So in that case, how it will identify the process, from which process I can take the page, how it will know. So one of the option is that the process can, a high priority process can replace the pages or the frames that belong to the low priority process. Okay. So let us assume there are two processes, say P10. Say P10 is occupying some pages. Say some 2-3 pages it is occupying. Okay. So this is P10. Say there is another process P1. Say there is another process P1. It is also occupying some 2 or 3 pages. Okay, so this is P1. Okay, let us assume P10 is higher priority and P1 is lower priority. So let us say that P10 already has 3 pages in the memory, 0, 1 and 2. It want to bring another page 3. So now instead of replacing its own pages, it may take a page from P1 and it may replace. Okay, so P1 has these pages 0, 1 and 3. So it may select that page 1 from P1 and it may replace that with its page 3. Okay, because why it is doing, because P10 is of higher priority and P1 is of lower priority. So like that, there may be many processes. So this process will pick up a process which is of lower priority, and with that process, uh, it may use that process frames for page replacement. Okay, so that is called as priority allocation or priority replacement. Okay, fine. So next we will be discussing a concept called non-uniform memory access. See, generally the memory access is assumed to be uniform. Uniform in the sense, we assume that it takes equal time for the CPU to access any part of the memory. Okay, so that is called as uniform memory access. Uniform memory access means it takes equal time for the CPU to access any location in the memory. It takes equal time for the CPU to access any location in the memory. But this is not always true. Let us assume a computer with multiple boards. Okay, with multiple boards in the sense motherboard. So say a particular computer is having 3 motherboards. Okay, a particular computer, one of the computers, say it may be a supercomputer or it may be a server. Okay, it is having 3 motherboards, and each motherboard will have its own CPU and memory, right? Say I am calling CPU as C, memory is as M. Okay, so each motherboard will have its own CPU and its memory. Okay, that is main memory. Okay, so there are 3 CPUs in each of the board. I mean, in each of the board there is one CPU. So totally there are 3 CPUs, and in each of the board there is one memory unit. So totally there are 3 memory unit. But these are not 3 different systems. This is a single system. Okay. Now, say for this particular CPU, let us call it a CPU one. CPU one can access this memory more fastly when compared to this memory. Okay, and CPU can access this memory. CPU one can access this memory fastly when compared to this memory. So we can say this is memory one, this is memory two, and this is memory three. So CPU one can access memory one more fastly, and yeah, memory 2 less fastly, and memory 3 it will access very slowly. Similarly, if you take CPU 2, it can access memory 2 more fastly, and memory 1 and memory 3 of equal time it will take. And if you take CPU 3, it can access CPU 3, yeah, it can access memory 3 more fastly, and next it can access memory 2 with a lesser speed, and it can access memory 1 with a very lesser speed. Okay, so this kind of architecture in which some of the memory are located in the same board where the CPU is located, where the other memories were located in some other boards, and all these memories were interconnected by a system bus. In that case, what happens in the sense, the CPU cannot access all memory in equal amount of time. uh, the time required for CPU to access different memory will vary. So that is called as non-uniform memory access, NUMA. The speed of access to memory varies. Okay, the example is there are multiple system boards with CPUs and memory interconnected over a system bus. Okay, but actually optimal performance comes when the allocation of memory is close to the CPU. Okay, so but the best performance will be given by a particular process if its memory is allocated to closer to it. Okay, for example, if CPU 1 was allocated with memory in memory 3, okay, then then how its performance will be? Even though everything else is fine, then there will be something lacking in its performance. Okay, so in such a system, uh, if the for CPU one, preferably the memory should be allocated in memory one. Okay, only if it demands more memory, or if memory one is already full, then it can be allocated memory in some other boards. Okay, so based on this also, the performance of the, so basically we are discussing about memory management unit, right? Virtual memory also a part of memory management. Okay, so in that context we are discussing this. So if memories are distributed over multiple boards, so that may also affect the performance of the uh, uh, memory utilization, okay, or the speed, right? Okay, fine. So the next concept we'll be discussing is thrashing. Okay, so what is thrashing? So before defining what is thrashing, let us discuss what basically what this demand paging actually it is doing. So with demand paging, what is happening in the sense? Demand paging, what is happening in the sense? Uh, so with demand paging, uh, say say initially the memory is free, all the locations are free. Let us assume there are some n number of frames are available. Okay, say n number of frames are available in the memory, 0 to n minus 1. Okay, now a particular process P1 want to come into the memory. Okay, so CPU will, operating system will identify, allocate some frames for it, either using what do you call, either using whatever the memory allocation schemes we have discussed, right? Either using proportional scheme, or 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 the another scheme that we have discussed, the equal sized scheme. Okay, whatever it may be, right? So based on that, some frames will be allocated. Say two frames, say three frames are allocated. So 0, 1, and 2. Okay, just this three frames are allocated for this particular process P1. Okay, now what happens in the sense, most probably the process P1 will may want to bring another page into the memory, and that page may not be in the memory currently. Okay, because currently there are only three pages. So obviously it is highly likely that whatever the page it will next request, that will create a page fault. Okay, so when there is a page fault, that will be brought into the memory. All these things we know. But whenever there is a page fault is happening, it means that during that time CPU is not getting used. So page fault is an IO operation. Whenever there is a page fault, uh, we bring, we move the one page to the hard disk and bring another page. So that is called as paging. So that is called as paging. Or if empty frames are already available, you directly bring that. So that process is called as paging. Bringing an empty frame, bringing the newly identified frame to the main memory, that is called as paging. So paging is basically an IO operation. During that time, CPU is not doing anything. During that time, CPU is not doing anything. CPU is underutilized. So memory, so operating system will be observing this, that CPU is getting underutilized. So whenever CPU is getting underutilized, then operating system just what it thinks in the sense, it will think that, okay, there is no sufficient process in the main memory, so that CPU is getting underutilized. Assuming like that, operating system again it will bring another process into the memory. So it may bring another process P2. For P2, it may allocate some 4 or 5 frames or whatever it may be. Okay, but maybe here also, after bringing P2 also, there may be page fault. There may be page fault, but the page fault will obviously decrease, but surely there will be page fault. Some page fault will be there. Again, operating system will think that CPU is underutilized, so we'll bring one more process. So it will bring one more process into the memory. Okay. Okay. Again, after this also, after bringing this also, there will not be zero page fault, right? There will be some page fault will be there. Again, operating system will assume that it seems there is no sufficient memory. Will bring one more process. So it will bring one more process. Okay. So like that, whenever the CPU is not getting utilized effectively, the operating system will assume that there is no sufficient process in the memory, and it will keep bringing more and more process into the main memory. Okay, it will keep bringing more and more process into the main memory. At one point, what will happen in the sense, there may be many process in the memory. Say, let us assume there are 50 process in the memory. Process P0 to process P49. Okay, but let us say that each process is having only 2 pages. Process P0 is having 2 pages. Process P1 is having 2 pages. Like that, every page is having only 2 pages. Process P49 is having only 2 pages or 2 frames. Now, what will happen? It is highly likely that every process will create a page fault because only 2 frames are there, only 2 pages are there. So it is highly likely that they may want to access a page which is currently not in the memory. So all these will create a page fault. So now also operating system will uh, will assume that there is a, what you call, there is a CPU is getting underutilized, and it will try to bring more and more process into the memory. By this time, what will happen in the sense, the CPU will be spending, or the process, each process will be spending more time on paging rather than actual execution. Okay, all process will be spending more time on paging rather than actual execution. Paging means, here paging means moving a process to the hard disk, moving a page to the hard disk and bringing another page to the main memory. So that is called as paging. So all these 50 process will keep spending the time on paging rather than on execution, because every other frame will create a page fault. Every other page, every other page request will create a page fault, and that particular process will move that page, will identify that page from the hard disk. It will, then it will identify a page should be replaced. It will bring this page, it will move that page to the hard disk. Like that, the 90% of the time will be spent on what you call paging. Paging here means moving an not required frame to the hard disk and bringing the new frame to the main memory. So they will be spending most of the time in paging rather than in execution. This problem is called as thrashing. This problem is called as thrashing. Okay. So if a process does not have any enough pages, then there will be a page fault. Okay. So whenever there is a page fault, we'll be replacing some existing frame if there is no sufficient memory. Okay. But what will happen? Whatever the page you replace now, that may be required again. So again you need to replace. So this will lead to low CPU utilization, because most of the time the paging is happening. So low CPU utilization. Because of low CPU utilization, operating system will think that CPU is getting underutilized, so it will increase the degree of multi-programming by bringing more and more process into the main memory. Okay, so by it will add more process to the uh, main memory. So but there is a limit on how many process you can add to the main memory. So there is a threshold. If it exceeds beyond the threshold, then what will happen in the sense, most of the process will be spending their time in swapping the pages. Okay, this swapping of the pages is called as paging. This swapping of the pages is called as paging. Okay, so most of the process will be spending their time in swapping these pages. So this swapping of the pages is also called as paging, that is moving the pages in and out of the memory. So so if the process is spending more time on swapping or in paging rather than on execution, that is called as thrashing. That is called as thrashing. Okay, this diagram better explains that. So initially, this x-axis represents degree of multi-programming. That is how many processes are in the main memory, and y-axis represents the CPU utilization. Initially, when there are less number of processes in the memory, see the CPU utilization is low. So because of that, operating system thinks that the CPU utilization is low, so it increases the degree of multi-programming. That is, it brings more and more process into the memory. As the degree of multi-programming increases, you can observe CPU utilization is also increasing. It is good, but it is increasing up to this point. This is the threshold. Okay, but but after this point, or you can say up to this it is increasing, but after, or up to this, okay, but after this point what happens, after this point it started degrading, the performance is started degrading, because because already there are many processes in the memory, so all these processes will be creating page fault. Okay, so if there are more processes in the memory, then each process will have less number of frames, so it is highly likely that they will create more page faults, and each of the process will be spending more time on paging, that is swapping, rather than an actual execution. So that is called as thrashing. That is called as thrashing. Okay, so mm, so this is how thrashing is defined. Okay, so that's it about this particular topic. So let us stop here. So what we have discussed in this lecture is we have discussed about frame allocation and thrashing. Okay, and also we'll, with this we'll stop discussing uh, virtual memory concepts. Okay, so in virtual memory we have discussed the introduction to virtual memory, we have discussed demand paging, and then we have discussed concepts like copy on write. Okay, and then we have discussed the various page replacement algorithms, and then in today's session we have discussed the frame allocation and thrashing. Okay, so let us stop here. Thank you.